Hello and welcome to Mastermind with me, Clive Myrie. In the spotlight tonight are Julia Clifton, a former GP whose specialist subject is the BAFTA-winning BBC comedy series Detectorists. Isabel Bergin, a librarian who will be answering questions on the Alice books of Lewis Carroll. Pete Westcott, who's retired, his subject is British politics in the 1960s. And Sam Swift, a local government officer whose subject is Sir Elton John. They say every journey begins with a single step. Well, after a rigorous selection process, our four contenders continue their journey, perhaps all the way to the grand final. The prize, this magnificent glass bowl, and the ultimate bragging right to be able to say they're a Mastermind champion. But navigating 2 minutes on their specialist subject and 2.5 minutes on general knowledge won't be easy as the pressure mounts. Who'll be blown off course and who'll walk serenely into the semi-finals? Let's find out. Can I ask our first contender to join us, please? Your name?
Julia Clifton.
Your occupation?
Former GP.
And your specialist subject?
Detectorists.
The award-winning BBC comedy series about two metal detectorists, Andy and Lance, played by writer-director Mackenzie Crook and Toby Jones. In 2 minutes, starting now. Andy and Lance are members of the Danebury Metal Detecting Club, or DMDC, which meets at the Scout Hall opposite which pub on the High Street?
The Two Brewers.
Yes, in the first episode, Lance researches images of the local area on the internet and believes that he's found evidence of an Iron Age settlement, until Andy points out that it's just a watermark that spells out what word?
Google.
Yes, what's the name of the New Age shop run by Lance's ex-wife, Maggie?
Crystal Enigma.
Yes, in the second episode, when Andy and Lance are asked, how are we? By two detectorists who resemble Simon and Garfunkel, what is Andy's two-word response?
Feeling groovy.
Yes, in Series 1, Andy tells a policeman that his girlfriend Becky teaches a class at St. Jude's Primary School, known by what name?
Orford Primary School.
No, Chaffinch Class. Which real-life singer-songwriter who co-wrote the music for the series makes a cameo appearance performing the show's theme tune at the White Horse Open Mic Nights?
Johnny Flynn.
Yes, while detecting with Andy in episode 2 of the second series, Lance uncovers what he calls a boat, or B-O-A-T, with the initials standing for a bit off our what?
Tractor.
Yes, Lance drives a 1978 Triumph TR7, which he says has been resprayed in Aztec yellow from what original shade of the colour?
Mimosa yellow.
Yes, what's the surname of Jacob and Isabella, the real-life twins who jointly play the role of Andy and Becky's son Stanley in Series 2 of the show?
Smith.
No, Hill. When Lance and Andy discuss their 6 ideal dinner party guests at the start of Series 3, whom does Lance suggest would not be a good person to invite because he's a bit moody?
Pass.
In Series 2, when the DMDC members Russell and Hugh set up a jewellery recovery service and locate a lost engagement ring, the story is reported in which local newspaper?
The Essex Chronicle.
Yes, what children's game bought at a charity shop do Lance and Andy play while camping in Series 3?
Kaplunk.
It is Kaplunk. And Julia, you had just a 1 pass when Lance and Andy discussed their 6 ideal dinner party guests. Lance suggests it wouldn't be good to invite the Dalai Lama because he's a bit moody. And at the end of that round, you've got 9 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. Your name?
Isabel Bergin.
Your occupation?
Librarian.
And your specialist subject?
The Alice books of Lewis Carroll.
The classic children's novels, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, and what Alice found there. In 2 minutes, starting now, in the opening scene of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Alice peeps into the book her sister is reading and thinks, what is the use of a book without pictures, or what?
Conversations.
Yes, when Alice first encounters the white rabbit, he runs past her and takes a watch out of the pocket of which item of his clothing?
His waistcoat.
Yes, the white rabbit mistakes Alice for his housemaid and tells her to run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. What's the housemaid's name?
Marianne.
Yes, in the first chapter of Through the Looking Glass, Alice is watching her cat Dinah, and Dinah's two kittens. One kitten is called Kitty. What's the name of the other?
Snowdrop.
Yes, what three words appear above the price of 10 and 6 on the Hatter's hat in John Tenniel's illustration of the Tea Party?
For sale.
No, in this style, the preface of Through the Looking Glass includes a chess puzzle in which the fifth move is Alice to Queen 6th, where she meets which character?
The White Knight.
No, Humpty Dumpty. In the poem You Are Old, Father William, which Alice recites incorrectly for the caterpillar, what's the price of a box of the ointment William uses to keep his limbs supple?
2 shillings.
No, 1 shilling. In Through the Looking Glass, Alice briefly forgets her name, but after a great deal of puzzling, is convinced that it starts with which letter of the alphabet?
M.
No, L. In the trial of the Knave of Hearts, the king reads out a rule that states all persons more than a mile high to leave the court. What number is this rule?
42.
Yes. What's the title of the chapter in Through the Looking Glass that comprises just a single sentence? It really was a kitten after all.
Waking.
Yes, while in the company of the Duchess, Alice contemplates that pepper makes people hot-tempered, vinegar makes them sour, and what ingredient makes them bitter?
Chamomile.
Yes, when he explains the meaning of the poem Jabberwocky to Alice, Humpty Dumpty says that the creatures known as toves make their nests under what devices?
Irons.
No, sundials. The price of eggs in the sheep shop is 2p for 2, but how much for 1 egg?
5p.
No, 5p farthing. Isabel, you had no passes. And at the end of that round, you've got 7 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. Your name?
Pete Westcott.
Your occupation?
Retired.
And your specialist subject?
British politics in the 1960s.
Yes, in 2 minutes. Starting now, which Labour MP who'd succeeded to his father's viscountcy in November 1960 led the campaign to allow peers to disclaim their hereditary titles?
Anthony Wedgwood Benn.
Yes. In March 1962, the Liberal Party candidate Eric Lubbock won a notable by-election victory in which supposedly safe Conservative seat on the outskirts of southeast London.
Orpington.
Yes. What was the name of the president of the Amalgamated Engineering Union who, during discussions at Chequers in June 1969, was allegedly told by Harold Wilson to get your tanks off my lawn?
Hugh Scanlon.
Yes, in the so-called Night of the Long Knives, who was sacked as Chancellor of the Exchequer by Harold Macmillan.
Selwyn Lloyd.
Yes, in March 1963, Captain Terence O'Neill succeeded Lord Brookborough in which office?
Prime Minister of Northern Ireland.
Yes, the Rhodesian Premier Ian Smith met Harold Wilson on board which cruiser in December 1966 in an unsuccessful attempt to agree terms for his country's independence from the UK.
HMS Tiger.
Yes, which Admiralty clerk was convicted in October 1962 of spying for the Soviet Union, having been blackmailed to do so?
John Vassell.
Yes, in 1964, which Scottish former teacher was appointed as Minister of Pensions and National Insurance, having previously served in Clement Attlee's government?
Hewison.
No, Peggy Herbison. The 21-year-old independent unity candidate Bernadette Devlin was elected to Parliament in April 1969 as the MP for which constituency in Northern Ireland?
Mid-Ulster.
Yes, in 1962, which Labour leader claimed that joining a federal Europe would mean the end of Britain as an independent European state and the end of 1,000 years of history?
Hugh Gaitskell.
Yes, which politician finished third and last in the 1965 Conservative Party leadership contest with just 15 votes?
Enoch Powell.
Yes, after Labour's general election victory in 1964, George Brown was appointed Secretary of State at what newly formed government department?
The Department of Economic Affairs.
Yes, what was the name of the former electrician who was a trade unionist and a Conservative MP representing Totnes, and after whose death it was alleged that he'd also been spying for Czechoslovakia?
Pass.
It is Ray Morby. And you had no other passes, and at the end of that round, Pete, you've got 11 points.
Okay.
And our final contender, please. And your name?
Sam Swift.
Your occupation?
Local government officer.
And your specialist subject?
Sir Elton John.
The multi-award-winning British singer, pianist and composer. In 2 minutes, starting now. Elton John was born Reginald Kenneth Dwight in March 1947 in which suburb of what's now the London borough of Harrow?
Pinner.
Yes, before he became a solo artist, Elton was in the group Bluesology, which in late 1966 became the regular backing band of which British vocalist?
Long John Baldry.
Yes, Elton made his live US debut at the Troubadour in Los Angeles on the 25th of August 1970, where he was introduced on stage by which famous singer-songwriter?
Neil Diamond.
Yes, for which song did Elton win an Oscar along with Tim Rice in 1995?
Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Yes, which early Elton John song that later featured prominently in the 2000 film Almost Famous includes the lyrics, "Count the headlights on the highway, lay me down in sheets of linen"?
Tiny Dancer.
Yes, what's the first name of the woman whose dramatic broken engagement to Elton in 1968 inspired the song Someone Save My Life Tonight, with lyrics by Elton's long-term collaborator Bernie Taupin?
Linda.
Yes, Elton and Bernie Taupin wrote the song Philadelphia Freedom for which of Elton's friends?
Billie Jean King.
Yes, what's the title of Elton's poorly received 1979 disco album, which was a chart flop for him on both sides of the Atlantic?
Victim of Love.
Yes, on the UK Top 40 album Elton John and Tim Rice's Aida, Elton performs the song The Messenger as a duet with which singer?
Randy Newman.
No, Lulu. Elton contributed harmony vocals and piano to what John Lennon's song, successfully wagering that it would top the US chart and resulting in Lennon's guest appearance at Elton's Thanksgiving performance at Madison Square Garden in 1974.
Whatever Gets You Through the Night.
Yes, in the 1970s, Elton toured the United States several times in an opulent converted Boeing passenger jet known by what name?
The Starship.
Yes, in March 2022, Elton performed what song as a tribute to Shane Warne when he appeared on screen during the Cricketers' State Memorial Service?
Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me.
Yes, at a 1980 concert in Central Park, Elton famously performed the encore wearing a Donald Duck costume created by which US fashion designer?
Bob Mackie.
Yes, which album first featured the track Sacrifice and Healing Hands, which became Elton's first solo UK #1 single when they were released as a double A-side in 1990?
The One.
No, Sleeping with the Past. And Sam, you had no passes, and at the end of that round, you've got 12 points. And at the end of the specialist subjects round, let's have a look at the scores. In fourth place with 7 points, it's Isabel. In third place with 9 points sits Julia. In second place with 11 points, it's Pete. And in first place with 12 points, it's Sam. So now the general knowledge round, and if there's a tie at the end, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they're tied on passes as well, it's a tie break. So let's ask Isabel to join us again, please. So Isabel, you start with 7 points. You've now got 2.5 minutes on general knowledge. Starting now. The name of which dish, traditionally served at breakfast and made by boiling oats in milk or water, is also a slang term for time spent in prison?
Pass.
What's the two-letter title of the poem by Rudyard Kipling which ends with the line, "And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son"?
Just so.
No, If, the bird with the scientific name Tyto alba, literally meaning white owl, known for its pale plumage, silent flight and piercing cry, is most commonly known by what name in Britain?
Snowy owl?
No, the barn owl. Which British singer who was runner-up on the television talent show The X Factor in 2009 became a coach on The Voice UK in 2018?
Joe McElderry.
No, Ollie Murs. Debris floating in the sea as the result of a shipwreck or an attempt to lighten a vessel's load is known as flotsam and what?
Jetson.
Yes, which UK hit single by the Beatles begins, "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me"?
Let It Be.
Yes. Lilongwe is the capital city of which Southeast African country?
Botswana.
No, Malawi. A style of bushy moustache, each end of which extends downwards to the chin, was named after which Mexican revolutionary leader who died in 1919?
Pass.
What medical condition, characterized by inflammation of the liver, has a number of different types, 5 of which are designated by the letters A to E?
Hepatitis.
Yes, Claudette Colbert and Clark Gable won the Best Actress and Best Actor Oscars for their roles in what 1934 film?
The 39 steps.
No, it happened one night at the 1976 Montreal Olympics, which 14-year-old Romanian competitor became the first gymnast to achieve a perfect score of 10.
Anna Petrova.
No, Nadia Comaneci. What was the name of the British Secretary of State for War who was lost at sea in 1916 after the ship on which he was travelling was sunk by a German mine?
Pass.
Which opera by Puccini, based on a book by Henri Murger, is set in the Latin Quarter of Paris in 1830?
Madame Butterfly.
No, La Bohème. In 2022, the politician John Lee became the chief executive of which special administrative region of China?
Hong Kong.
Yes, what adjective used to describe a medical implement that's totally clean and free from bacteria can also refer to an animal, such as a mule that's unable to produce young?
Sterile.
Yes, it's sterile. Isabel, you had 3 passes. The British Secretary of State for War, who was lost at sea in 1916 when his ship was sunk by a German mine, Herbert Kitchener. And a style of bushy mustache, each end of which extends downwards to the chin. It's named after Emiliano Zapata. You knew that. And the name of which dish traditionally served at breakfast and made by boiling oats in milk or water? Porridge.
I thought you said yolk.
And at the end of that round, Isabel, you now have a total of 12 points.
Thank you.
And next up is Julia. So, Julia, you start with 9 points. The score to beat as it stands is 12 points. You've now got 2.5 minutes on general knowledge. Starting now. According to a common expression, to act at an opportune moment is to strike while the iron is what?
Hot.
Yes, in a reference to his nickname, the 2005 book Being Freddie is an autobiography of which former England cricketer?
Freddie Flintoff.
Yes, the word terps is an informal name for what oily liquid used as a solvent?
Turpentine.
Yes, at the end of the 1933 film King Kong, the title character climbs what famous landmark in New York City?
Empire State Building.
Yes, which motorway has service stations called Torrington, Trowell and Woolly Edge?
M6.
No, the M1. In 1992, the lexicographer Susie Dent first appeared as a word expert on which television game show?
Countdown.
Yes, what's the name of the title character of an 1890s play by George Bernard Shaw, who must choose between her husband, a clergyman, and a new romance with her young admirer, Eugene Marchbanks?
Pygmalion.
No, Candida. Which species of bear has the scientific name Ursus maritimus, meaning sea bear, a reference to the fact that it spends much of its time in the sea or on sea ice?
Polar bear.
Yes, Georgia on My Mind, Hit the Road Jack and I Can't Stop Loving You were UK hit singles in the early 1960s for which soul singer?
Fred Smith.
No, Ray Charles. In Parliament, an agreement made by an opposition party to support a minority government on confidence votes and budgetary matters, though not necessarily on other votes, is usually referred to as confidence and what?
Favour.
No, supply. What ominous-sounding name was given to the survey of England carried out during 1086 on the orders of William the Conqueror?
The Doomsday Book.
Yes, in January 2022, which Scottish darts player nicknamed Snakebite won his second PDC World Championship, beating Michael Smith in the final?
Angus Thomas.
No, Peter Wright. What small, loose-skinned orange citrus fruit similar to a mandarin is named after a seaport in Morocco?
Clementine.
No, Tangerine. Which Italian scientist and inventor shared the 1909 Nobel Prize in Physics for his contribution to the development of wireless telegraphy?
John Logie Baird.
No, Guglielmo Marconi. In the classification of lead pencils, the letter B stands for what?
Softness.
No,
Soft.
Black. Which composer's piano concerto number 21 in C major, completed in 1785, has become known as Elvira Madigan after part of it was used in a 1967 Swedish film with that title?
Queen Christina.
No, Mozart. And Julia, you had no passes, and at the end of that round, you've got a total of 16 points.
Thank you.
And next up is Pete. So, Pete, you start with 11 points. The score to beat as it stands is 16 points, and you've now got 2.5 minutes on general knowledge. Starting now. Which English monarch is sometimes referred to as Good Queen Bess?
Elizabeth I.
Yes, at the 1936 Olympics, Jessie Owens won gold medals in the long jump, the 4x100 metres relay, the 100 metres, and a race over what other distance?
200 metres.
Yes, what computer programming language developed by James Gosling in the 1990s shares its name with a large island that's part of Indonesia?
Java.
Yes, in March 2021, William Burns was sworn in as the director of which US federal agency?
Federal Drug Agency.
No, the CIA. Which British folk rock band had UK #1 albums with Babel in 2012 and Wilder Mind in 2015?
Pass.
A 1960 lithograph entitled Ascending and Descending, featuring an impossible, never-ending staircase, is the work of which Dutch artist?
Dürer.
No, MC Escher. What word for light rainfall is used in cookery to mean to trickle liquid over food and features in the name of a type of sponge cake, especially one flavoured with lemons?
Drizzle.
Yes, in what 2015 film does Eddie Redmayne play the transgender artist Lily Elba?
Pass.
The story of the Trojan prince, Aeneas, is told in a 12-book epic poem by which Roman writer?
Homer.
No, Virgil. What's the title of the television series first shown in 2013, featuring the French head waiter Fred Siriex, in which pairs of single people meet up for a meal in a restaurant with a view to finding a partner?
Dining with my ex.
No, First Dates. In geometry, what's the usual term for a polygon with 10 sides?
Decagon.
Yes. What was the shared surname of the American siblings Lionel, Ethel, and John, who were part of a famous stage acting dynasty in the first half of the 20th century?
Barrymore.
Yes. What two-word term for a single hit in baseball that enables a batter to make a complete circuit of the bases can also be used colloquially to mean a great success?
Home run.
Yes. The town of Keswick and the villages of Seatoller and Pooley Bridge are in which English national park?
The Lake District.
Yes. The term cultivar, used in botany to refer to a plant produced by selective breeding, is a portmanteau of cultivate and what other word?
Variety.
Yes. What name is given to the pair of deep arteries in the human body that supply blood to the muscles in the upper part of each arm and elbow joint?
Pass.
Landmarks in which historic city in Belgium include the Groningen Museum, I've started so I'll finish, and a prominent medieval belfry with an octagonal lantern tower?
Bruges.
It is Bruges. Pete, you had 3 passes. What name is given to the pair of deep arteries in the human body that supply blood to the muscles in the upper part of each arm? Brachial arteries. Danish Girl is the 2015 film in which Eddie Redmayne plays the transgender artist Lily Elba. And Mumford & Sons is the British folk rock band that had the UK #1 albums, Babel and Wilder Mind. And at the end of that round, Pete, you've got 21 points.
Thank you.
And finally, it's Sam. So, Sam, you start with 12 points. The score to beat to get through to the semi-finals is Pete's 21 points. And you've got 2.5 minutes on general knowledge, starting now. A doubles match in tennis involves a total of how many players on court?
4.
Yes, in the children's books by Catherine Hollibird, what type of creature is Angelina Ballerina?
A mouse.
Yes, which news and current affairs broadcaster began presenting the television show Dragon's Den when it was first shown in 2005?
BBC. 2.
It was Evan Davis. What mathematical symbol consists of the square root sign accompanied by a number 3?
Imaginary number.
No, cube root. What term, the Italian for at ease or at leisure, is an instruction to play a piece of music slowly?
Legato.
No, adagio. The small channel island of Breccu is just off the west coast of which larger island in the group?
Or Jersey.
No, Sark. Which European leader was overthrown and imprisoned by his opponents in 1943, only to be rescued from captivity by German paratroopers who took him to Hitler's headquarters?
Hess.
No, Benito Mussolini. The 2021 Marvel superhero film starring the Canadian actor Simu Liu as the titular master of Kung Fu is entitled Shang-Chi and the Legend of the what?
Yin.
No, 10 rings. What political institution was awarded the 2012 Nobel Peace Prize for over 6 decades contributed to the advancement of peace and reconciliation, democracy and human rights?
The European Union.
Yes. In words such as naive, what's the name for the mark consisting of 2 dots placed over the second of 2 vowels to indicate that it should be pronounced separately?
An umlaut.
No, diuresis. A classic margarita pizza is topped with what variety of cheese traditionally made from buffalo milk?
Mozzarella.
Yes, which chart-topping Britpop group was originally formed as the band Rain in 1991 and included Tony McCarroll on drums and Paul Arthurs, otherwise known as Bonehead, on guitar?
Oasis.
Yes, the offices of the international police body Interpol moved from Saint-Cloud, just outside Paris, to which French city in 1989?
Lyon.
Yes, at the beginning of Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, the 2 shabbily dressed men who claim to be awaiting the arrival of the title character are called Estragon and what?
Vladimir.
Yes, in Greek mythology, what was the name of the centaur who was killed by Heracles, but whose poisoned blood in turn killed Heracles himself?
Telemachus.
No, Nessus. In publishing, the letters ISBN stand for International Standard what?
Book number?
Yes, the main acidic component of vinegar, sometimes known as ethanoic acid, is more commonly known by what name derived from the Latin for vinegar?
Acetic acid.
Yes, which historical province in southern Portugal, I've started, so I'll finish. Now, a popular tourist destination has a name derived from the Arabic for the West.
Algarve.
It is Algarve. And Sam, you had no passes, and at the end of that round, you've now got a total of 22 points. You've done it.
Thank you.
So let's have a look at the final scores. In 4th place with 12 points, it's Isabel. In 3rd place with 16 points, it's Julia. It was tight. In 2nd place with 21 points, it's Pete. And in 1st place with 22 points, it's Sam, which means he goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to him. Now, if you would like to be a contender in the next series, please go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us, of course, at Mastermind Quiz. Join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
I did not expect the pressure to be what it was, but it is mammoth. So to come through is brilliant.
And your specialist subject?
Sir Elton John. I was very happy with the specialist subject. Everything I'd revised came up, and I felt quite natural. Tiny dancer.
Yes.
Sir Elton John and his music is something you can't avoid if you grow up in Watford, as I did. He's kind of imbued in the very soul of the town and everyone who lives there. Pete was going very, very strongly on his specialist subject as well. He was really building up momentum, and I thought he was going to be dangerous in the general knowledge round, and indeed he was, especially as I started faltering, but was fortunate enough to pull it back and got a couple of questions that fell nicely for me at the end there, and to squeeze through by a point is something I'm really, really happy with.